Hello, welcome back to Tahi Steak. Today, I'm going to start a new series. It's called a Sunday vlog, or it's more like a Sunday ritual I'm going to plan. It's going to talk about a dish and how we found that dish, what inspired, and how we maybe include a short grocery run also because we might need some ingredients and so on. So, short story. I have been to a small town a couple of weeks back, and there was a small bakery there which sells this amazing Cornish pastries. And we went for an Indian version of it, like with cauliflower and some bhaji, but it was surprisingly so good. So today I found, or I'm rather looking at some Cornish pastries to be prepared. So it's going to be very rich, crumbly, and a nice filling inside. So it's going to be you can have it as a snack or even a main course if you're interested. So first we are going to make the pastry dough. So for that we need 3 cups of plain flour or all-purpose flour, or 350 grams if you're in grams, and you can have around 115 grams of butter, unsalted, and also a little bit of vegetable fat, or you can use animal fat. So we are using a little bit of animal fat we prepared from home. So I just took a scoop out of it, and we need a little bit of chilled water to mix and bind the entire dough. 3 cups of sifted plain flour, and the butter is there, and we have the lard and some salt, and we'll have some water to bind the mixture. Let's start by adding some little bit of salt, and maybe a little bit more. Yeah. And then nicely bind the mixture. The salt is evenly spreading. Next, let's put the butter. So the butter is chilled and diced, so it has to be in that consistency. The reason for that I'll tell you, and how it makes a difference for the dough I'll tell you in a while. So just start nicely binding it. So the mixture is now a little bit of, you can see the crumbles forming. So in it we can start adding the lard, use the animal fat which I have prepared. So I'll just nicely put it, and then we can start binding it. So it gives a flavor, since I'm using animal fat, so that gives a flavor to the Cornish pasty. And if you're a vegetarian, I think you can go for vegetable fat, doesn't matter. And I'm adding a little of chilled water now to the mixture. So the water should be an accurate amount, just for you to make sure that you're able to bind it. So that is how you should slowly add water to it. So as you can see, I have added a little bit more water to get the consistency, so you don't have to stick with exactly 5 to 6 tablespoons. So rather you can just add a little bit more. However, you can make sure the dough is looking like this, so it's a little bit crumbly, but it's not loose also, right? So let's now knead it properly on the countertop. Okay, as you can see, the dough is coming nicely smooth. So the next step we need to do is we just need to wrap it in a cling film and refrigerate for around 30 minutes. So it's all good. Now, since don't want to have direct exposure to plastic, I'm using a butter paper, and then wrap it, and then just to stick on top, I'm gonna use a little bit of cling film, so that way it sticks to the butter paper and no exposure to the plastic. Okay, and there you go. Now it's time to refrigerate. So I'm using a little bit of chicken that has been marinated. So it has salt, pepper, and some chili flakes. It's a basic marinade, and we're gonna add it for the fillings of the pastry along with other ingredients. And we have our ingredients here. So first we have some chicken that has been air fried earlier. So it's a simple marination like we discussed. And then we have our masalas. We'll be discussing about what that is. So we have some green peas, baby corn, and some broccoli, onion, and some garlic, and we have some homemade garlic and chili oil. So next step, we need to saute them. So first off, we're going to start with add some chili oil, chili and garlic oil to the pan. And alternatively, you can use butter also. So this is something which we had, so I'm just using that. Next, we'll use some garlic. And up next, we'll add some onions also to it. So you just lightly saute the onion and garlic, so you don't have to do it for much time. Just a light sauteing would be fine. Up next, we'll be adding the baby corn and broccoli and the green peas. And that's a sizzling sound. So you just nicely saute it. You just don't have to overdo it because we are going to make the pastry and bake it after. So a light sauteing would help because the initial recipe I had, we had a 1 hour of slow baking, but I thought we'll just expedite it, maybe a 10 minutes or 15 minutes of baking time so that the filling has to be a little bit cooked, and that's how we're going to do it. So we have for the seasoning, we have salt, chili flakes, dried parsley, dried garlic powder, cumin powder, and a little bit of pepper. So this is going to be the seasoning we are going to use for the Cornish pasty. So let's do it. And then nicely give it a stir. You don't want to burn the filling, so just nice and slow. In the aroma, you will get an aroma of the spices when you do so. So I think just make sure that it's not burning on the bottom. So up next, we'll add the chicken. So we have the air fried chicken from before. So we'll just add to the mixture. So once we had add the cheese, you might think that the filling might be a little bit dry. So there are a couple of options. Either you can use any kind of sauce or something as a binding agent, or you can either use cheese as well. So for this recipe, I'm going to use some cheese and a little bit of chipotle sauce we have. So you can feel free to use what kind of sauce you want to have. So once the chicken is also incorporated, let's put the cheese in. Up next, we're going to add the chipotle sauce. So this is something which we have made in home. So it's quite simple. You can use some salad cheese, chipotle peppers, and a little bit of salt and yogurt and chili flakes. So pepper also you can add. So that way, I think you can just mix everything in a mixer and that becomes your sauce. And we also have some shredded cheddar cheese. So we'll add that also into it. And that's going to be. So make sure that you're not adding too much of sauce and cheese because we don't want the pasty to be soggy. So just add adequate amount of the sauce and the cheese so that just it looks like this mixture. You can see the texture in it. So it's something like quite not very saucy but a little bit moist. So this is the consistency we want. Up next, we'll go with the pastry. The pastry has been in the refrigerator for some time. So we'll nicely roll the pastry and then put this filling into it, and then next after that we'll be baking it. So that is the dough from the refrigerator. So I think it is nicely rested. So we need to just roll it down. So next we will start the rolling down the pastry. So once I have rolled the dough, so I just spread it out on the countertop. You can use some mold to cut round shapes. So I'm using a lid of a pot I have. So we'll just nicely make some rounds, and there you go. Should be fine. And then one more next to that. Yeah, I think it is 7. Not bad. So we have the nicely cut pasty dough ready. So in that we're going to add the filling, and we have prepared some so you can see how nicely it is coming along. So when you once you add the pasty, you just have to seal the edges. So I'm using some water on the edges just to nicely bind both the top and the bottom portions. And once you're done on rubbing the water along the sides, you just nicely fold it in, and along the edges you just nicely give some gentle press so that it sticks to it, and then you can enclose the pasty. So you can use a hand method, and there are some other methods also you can find online. So we can use some fork and do that, or just use the hand. There you go. That's it. So as next step for the pasties we have prepared, we need to give them a good egg wash, and then I have started the oven for 220 degrees, and we'll be baking it for first 15 minutes, and then based on that we can plan for the next 15 minutes as need be. So let's get started with the egg wash. So we have the Cornish pasties ready and nicely given a good egg wash that will give that golden color and a crust. So it's going to be a little bit of crumbly, rich pasties, and let's see how it is going to bake. So we are going to put in the oven, and that's the Cornish pastry right out from the oven. Nicely glazed. I hope it's crusty enough. There you go. The moment of truth. Oh, now that's the Cornish pastry. All right. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Until next time, we'll come up with more recipes and vlogs in the coming days. Stay tuned.